If your summer plans have you searching for a slower pace, a change of scenery, and maybe some fun on the water, the Verde Valley might just be your perfect beat the heat destination.
A lot of people don't realize that we are a river and a creek community.
So locals even come out who've been living here forever and kind of go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You know, this was in my backyard. There's always enough water to do a river trip.
Outdoor river adventures, kayaking, tubing, and paddleboarding are also making a splash.
It was my first time paddleboarding on a river. I've had a little bit of experience in the ocean and in a bay, but this was completely different.
Scott Buckley owns Clarkdale Kayak Company.
We focus a lot on the history of Clarkdale, the mining history, the history of the ancient Sinagwan culture, and a tour of the riparian zone here along the Verde River.
As you pass the cottonwood and willow forest, the river winds you towards what's left of an ancient civilization.
So if you look up to the left, you get a nice view of our Sinagwan ruin. It's about 900 years old. It's a culture that lived in this area that were farmers. They grew corn, beans, squash, and a little bit of cotton. And they all but deserted this area before any European settlers arrived.
The area around the Verde River is not only gorgeous, but full of surprises, especially for our out-of-state visitors.
They're in awe of the beauty of the river. Seeing a river running through the desert is not what a lot of people are used to. A lot of people are travelers from the Midwest, and they've driven up from Phoenix and spent time in the Sedona area, and to actually see a river running through the desert just absolutely blows people away.
A unique way to transition from a scenic adventure to leisure is to paddle down the Verde River to an estate vineyard that was built near the banks of the Verde River.
Just out here one day boating down the Verde River, and we came up here and we noticed some of the grapevines, and we stopped and we met Barbara Predmore, the owner, and immediately I went, my gosh, we could do a water to wine trip.
The Verde River has become a gateway to fun activities to beat the Arizona heat, including estate wineries and tasting rooms that make up the Verde Valley Wine Trail.
In the Verde Valley, its main life source is the Verde River, which gives it kind of a voluptuous quality.
We're already blessed with a river. We're blessed with Jerome and Cottonwood and Sedona and the Grand Canyon. We had people coming to visit us. So we put in a wine industry, we're adding another thing for people to do when they come.
So, let's go taste some wines and have some fun in one of the most beautiful places in Arizona. From its base all the way up to its plateau, a hill in Cottonwood is now a gourmet paradise.
It was formerly the home of a local Masonic temple that was built in 1958. And as you see the transformation of Old Town Cottonwood and where we are today, we saw this beautiful hill with this building sitting up on top of the hill, and it's like, what can we do with that?
What the owners did was create a food and wine destination that is truly unique. At the bottom of the hill, there's an Italian gelateria with flavors plucked from the garden.
We have our core flavors. Some of the favorites are the bunker mint chip and the pomegranate lemon sorbet, but we also incorporate a lot of fruit and produce from our orchards and gardens as well. So the flavors that you'll see when you come up to the window and order your gelato are rotating and seasonal.
Then the hill itself is partly covered with grapevines.
What we ended up doing was we did soil samples, and we know that grapes grow in the Verde Valley very well on grade. We have found that grapes like Tempranillo and Nebbiolo do really well at our higher elevation sites, such as the Judith Vineyard, and those wines are very expressive, so we felt like we had something special here at this site.
And lastly, at the top, there's a wine tasting room.
This is one of my personal favorites.
And a restaurant with a spectacular 270-degree view that is a feast for the eyes and, of course, the taste buds.
We have fresh pasta. We have a greenhouse located adjacent to the kitchen, and so we try to be as fresh as possible with the ingredients.
This literal mountain of Epicurean treasures is called Merkin Vineyards, Hilltop Winery, and Trattoria. And it's the brainchild of Maynard James Keenan, the vocalist for the rock band Tool.
Maynard made his way to the Verde Valley after growing up working in orchards and fields in West Michigan.
Keenan grew up with a love of farm-fresh food, and his passion expanded to wine when he was touring the world as a musician.
So the owner and winemaker here developed a love for wine by being on the road, visiting these regions, and just that idea of wines that pair with local fare, with local produce, things that there's really a connection to the farmer and to the winemaker.
Keenan could have grown grapes in many places, but he chose Arizona. And at the Ventura Tasting Room, sales director Calvin Arnold says you can learn all about why he chose this region.
For folks coming to town who want to do a deep dive into the mechanics of Arizona wine, why we do what we do, why it makes sense to be here, and really kind of drill down and dig into our history and what we're able to offer, that's a very special experience that we're able to provide for them.
Arnold says with the winemaking, they are looking to create a distinct taste. They do that with both the types of grapes grown and also the way they ferment them.
We typically are not quite as heavy on oak as, say, for example, a California wine. And so when you look at our oak program, most of the oak that we use is going to be neutral French oak.
But for these winemakers, it's not just about making a quality bottle of vino. It's also about creating a legacy for this area.
Nothing really expresses a place more than its wine. If it's done right, then you're capturing the soil, you're capturing the environment, you're capturing, the air, and this place is imparted on that wine. It's a fingerprint.
It's a taste that may remind you of a sunny day and a special hill in Arizona.
And if they get a bottle and take it back home to wherever they are and they open that bottle, if we're doing our job, then it'll bring them back to this place.
In need of a respite after a day on the river or exploring communities along the Verde Valley Wine Trail, the area offers many options for your getaway. Here are 3 we visited recently. Michelle Jurison and her husband Eric own and operate the Tavern and Clinkscale Hotels, along with a host of restaurants in the Verde Valley.
Our inspiration for the Tavern Hotel was a hotel that was luxurious and not overpriced, where you could check in and get a couple of cocktails after your long day of traveling, as well as walking to your dinner and your drinking experiences.
A chic boutique hotel nestled in the heart of Old Town Cottonwood. Just up the hill in Jerome is the Clinkscale Hotel, a reimagined boutique hotel, bar and grill, all in one historic building.
It's a great building, so it was super easy to go in here and just gut it, restore it, and start from the ground up.
Each room is simple yet elegantly decorated, charming, airy, and intimate.
Our building was actually built in 1915. Has been several different things in 100 years, but it started off as an undertaker. We're sitting right here where the undertaker parlor was, and he had an embalming room and a chapel.
Awashed in natural light with splashes of copper that echo the town's rich mining history, the rooms of the Park Hotel in downtown Clarkdale couldn't be more inviting.
When you enter the room, I feel like, of course, the brick is your main focus. You see that beautiful brick wall. They each have a kitchenette, just a beautiful boutique feel to them.
Arizona Highways TV is brought to you by APS, making every day brighter, and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Travel about 2 hours north of Phoenix, and you could be traveling back to a different time. At the Blazin M Experience in Cottonwood, owner Ryan Glass wants you to soak up the spirit of Arizona's frontier era.
We aim to become a tombstone of the north of Arizona, to bring people back into the Wild West, into gunfights and saloon slinging and bar crawling. And we're really gonna make that an experience that people won't forget.
They've created countless ways for people to get that Wild West feeling, from bull riding to petting farm animals to an escape room that's straight out of a Western movie.
It's all about robbing the bank. So if you want you and your 5 friends to go in and figure out some puzzles to rob the bank, that's something you can do here as well.
And when you're done with the cowboy-inspired museum and shopping, maybe you knock back a drink in the saloon. And then the next round of fun begins.
Now I got JJ and Scotty here who are gonna ring our dinner bell. And in order for them to ring that dinner bell, the first thing we need is a big round of applause for them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go as many times as you want. Yes! Dinner time!
It's time for a chuckwagon style dinner in the big barn.
You got everything from prickly pear coleslaw, cowboy beans, mashed potatoes. We added macaroni and cheese and beautiful yeast rolls. And so you're gonna come out feeling full with cherry pie at the end.
And that's about the time the barn lights dim and the show begins.
We are about ready to fire this show right on up. Yeah!
It's a country western love story between Tex Wesley and his lovely partner Dinah, or Dynamite as her last name is.
With an aim of entertaining old and young alike.
The show is very family oriented, jokes for everyone to participate in, songs for everyone.
And this dinner show has an ending that has entertained generations of visitors.
And I can't tell you what the grand finale is, or your listeners at home, because we want you to come and experience. But there is a tradition that has been going on for 30 years at the Blazin M Ranch that has a little spook to it.
Glass bought Blazin M from a family who'd been running the show and theme park for many years, but they were ready to hand over the reins.
They had come off of a 16 months of being off because of COVID, and they were deciding to retire, and they were choosing someone who would come in and continue the legacy of the Blazin M tradition. And my family was really excited to be able to purchase and do just that.
There's been quite a few updates in the past couple of years, for example, to the show's music.
It's more like Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Glenn Campbell, those types of songs, country from the 60s and forward. So it's not the old tumbleweed cowboy songs. It's been a little modernized since we took over.
And a huge update is planned for the future.
When we think about where we're going, the plans to build a 27-unit glamping resort, glamorous camping, and a 39-room hotel, all 1880s style, all themed into the Wild West.
I'm going to the lake, won't be back no more.
But at its core, Blazin M is about the Wild West and those wide-open Arizona vistas that hosted the cowboy way of life.
We're in a little parcel of land, 8.5 acres, surrounded by about 800 acres of Arizona public state park land. And so we're only less than a mile and a half from Old Town historic Cottonwood, but we're this island of private land, which is really, really cool.
And it still evokes the late 1800s, even as the world around this ranch has vastly changed. Arizona Highways TV is brought to you by APS, making every day brighter, and the Arizona Office of Tourism. When you think of an orchestra, you think stringed instruments like the violin or cello.
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
But the ukulele? This is the Jerome Ukulele Orchestra, led by Tommy Anderson, known to most as Tommy Rocks.
They're just the most amazing instrument you can play. And if you can play anything with strings, you can play an ukulele.
And Tommy can play pretty much any stringed instrument.
Hey babe, why don't we run away?
When I first started, I was going in the Army, self-taught on guitar. I was terrible and didn't know it, but so they made me the bass player.
We'll miss us for days and days by the time.
And I just want to pick up girls, right? So I became the bass player and then the singer and then became the guitar player. Then I figured, well, I better teach myself piano. And then I started picking up just about everything. So banjo, mandolin, dobro. Ukulele is probably the last instrument that I've picked up. I was in a Beatles band, and George Harrison is a big fan of the ukulele, so I figure since I love George Harrison, I better learn how to play ukulele.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's alright.
The ukulele first struck a chord in North America about the same time copper was being struck in Jerome.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter.
It's the late 1800s. Portuguese people were coming over to Hawaii and they brought a 5-string instrument called a machete. And then it turned into a 4-string instrument, and pretty soon it took over the island of Hawaii. In the 1910s and 1920s, there was so much tourism going back and forth between Hawaii and America. It became the sweetheart of America. The 1930s, the big Great Depression hit, so no one could afford to buy guitars, so everybody was playing ukuleles. Early 1960s, even the rockers, so Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, Eric Clapton, John Lennon, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, everybody was playing these things. And then the mid-1960s, here comes Tiny Tim and just killed them for about 30 years.
It's party time tonight.
I had this idea that everybody from town, they got to start hanging out with each other. And what's the best way to do that? Over some food and wine and playing ukulele. So I started the Jerome Ukulele Orchestra. In the first night, within 2 hours, I had everybody playing music and doing songs. The place was totally packed to capacity, and there was people waiting out on the sidewalks. Pretty soon we got noticed. America's Got Talent noticed us in the first year. So I got asked to bring everybody down, so I took 20 people down. We auditioned. We got through 2 levels of auditions. By the second year, I got noticed by Ukulele Magazine, so I made the cover story of Ukulele Magazine. And since then, I've been written up. They've published me again. One of my songs called It's Party Time.
It's party time tonight. See how the moons are shining in the dark blue sky.
So I'm kind of known as the ukulele guy in Arizona, and proud of it too, because you can see that ukuleles have really taken over my life. I've got a couple Martins up here. This one is called Magic.
He's also the largest ukulele dealer in Arizona.
Here is the double neck ukulele. So on the first day, within 15 minutes, some people came in and they bought an ukulele. So I was like, woohoo! Second day, I was here open, sold another ukulele, and I was like, that's great. Third day, I didn't sell a ukulele, so I was like, oh. But the fourth day, I sold another ukulele, and it's like, maybe I got something here. And since then, I've probably sold maybe 1,500 ukuleles.
But you don't have to be a musician to appreciate Tommy Rock's eclectic store. Just a music fan. You'll find albums and turntables, rock and roll memorabilia, t-shirts, stickers, and of course, guitars and ukuleles.
People see an ukulele and they think it's just this small little timid instrument, and there's really no limitations.
It's party time tonight.
So I'm going to punch down the Sierra Bonita Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. This is about 30% whole cluster. We use whole cluster to get a little sweetness and tannin and spice from the stems. It's a really good way to add a depth of mid-palate.
It's a sunny Sunday morning in Clarkdale, a couple of hours before the tasting room at Chateau Tumbleweed opens.
This is about 5 days into its fermenting process. The conversion is happening and you can really start to get hints of what the nose is going to be like.
Chris Potier and her husband Joe Béchard are busy punching grapes, steaming oak caskets, and preparing to barrel the latest harvest. Chris and Joe, along with another couple, started this winery and tasting room in 2015, years after first moving to Arizona from Oregon.
I came here with Chris fresh out of college with my journalism degree and came to write for a local newspaper here in the Verde Valley.
That's when they say they sort of fell backwards into the winemaking business.
None of us intended to work in wine. None of us intended to be in Arizona.
And I had never heard of Arizona wine, didn't know anything about it, and was really curious.
A year later, Joe started working up the road at Page Springs Cellars, essentially putting a cork in his journalism career.
Once I started to get to see Arizona wine, I really fell in love with it, and I really believe in the wines here, and they're the kind of wines that I like to drink.
We all walked into the industry in a time where there weren't very many people involved, so we were given badges to do things that otherwise people would clamor for or go to school for, so we learned on the job.
After about 15 years of on-the-job training, Chris and Joe, along with their partners, decided to go their own way.
You know, it's kind of our own little project. We get to finally say what we wanted to say about Arizona wine and do it in a way that we wanted to do it.
Chateau Tumbleweed has gone from making 2,000 cases to 5,000 a year, and they now work with a dozen vineyards in 3 counties.
That's one thing that's kind of unique about Chateau Tumbleweed is we don't have our own vineyards, so we're sourcing a lot of fruit. And what we've decided to do is kind of make it educational and exciting and go and show people, you know, here's Sangiovese from 3 different vineyards across Arizona, or here's Cab Sauv from 3 different vineyards or 4 different vineyards.
Like most tasting rooms, they serve wine flights or by the glass. You can sit on the patio or enjoy the inviting living room setting.
I'd been into a lot of tasting rooms in my life that made me feel uncomfortable and want to hug a wall. And that was the only thing that really we intended, is to try to make a warm, engaging space where people came in and wanted to relax and drink some wine.
Chris says guests will find that their wines stand out, not just because of the distinctive labels that she draws, but because of their balance and because of Joe's creativity at developing depths of flavors.
If you're a person who likes to think and you want to get lost in wine, his wines are really good to get lost in.